Hi, sorry it's been a while since my last video. I've been finding my feet with YouTube and I've been quite busy. On Monday, I visited the Shadow Veterans Minister, Steve McCabe. I spent about 2.5 hours with him. He was very open and wanted to know the issues for families and carers, but also in regards to military TBI. And I'll tell you more about that on another day. But something I've also been doing is a small study around one particular army regiment at one particular time that's very related to my situation. And again, I'll be able to tell you more about that later on because I believe it may be something that might go into print. But something I really want to talk about right now is carers again and about how we look after ourselves. I don't know about you, but me as a carer, I can forget about me. I can become completely overwhelmed by being a wife of an army veteran and his needs in regards to healthcare and so forth, and fighting for him. And I fight at several different levels. So currently, my husband is entitled to a CHC, which is a continuing healthcare plan. We've had that for near on, this will be the second year coming up, yet actually nothing has happened via that. He hasn't received any additional support or funding for treatment or diagnosis. But also we sit within the GP structure. We can talk more about that later, and especially veterans GP accreditations. And then hospital, we are very much struggling on a local level for my husband to be accepted by the trust here, as they deem him as too complex. I find that word demeaning because nobody, whether they are veteran or civilian, is supposed to be too complex for the system we're in. There has to be a way of integrating into services. At the moment, everybody says there is no service for military TBI. I said it again. I think professionals would debate that, whether there is a proper diagnostic treatment service all in one. There isn't. We have what was known as VTN, Veterans Trauma Network, which is now called, I'm going to remember this, Restore, which I don't like the name, to be quite honest. I prefer VTN. Is actually a referral system which will refer you to different places within the country. There's no specific place or consultant or team that you will see, and everybody's experience will be vastly different to the next. And whether they understand the military system, who knows? And I'm actually still trying to understand the funding system in regards to that. So that is a system which is under the NHS England Armed Forces umbrella. Sorry about the arm movements. So that's where we are with that. And also, so GP, our GP couldn't be more amazing. And what else are we? Well, that's where we sit. We are actually under Imperial at London, and the gentleman whose clinic is that is Prof Sharp, who heads the advanced study. Still, we are no further ahead, and I won't say anything more in regards to that. So for me, that's how I spend the majority of my time. Chasing services, finding services, talking to professionals across the world, trying to find something that will fit with my husband. Also, we have our children, we have our boys. So that again takes up majority of my time between cadets and our children play indoor bowls, so short mat bowls, which has been a bit of a saviour actually for them. And also, I don't know, I used to do Peloton. I've spent the last 2 months off, which to me hasn't helped me fantastically mentally. And bodily wise, everything's expanding. But yeah, I really find it hard to find something for me. Actually, I end up trying to create something for me and other people. For example, I'm a carer governor at a health trust in Oxford, so Oxford Foundation Trust. And I've been working with a lady called Diane Hilson, who is amazing. And we created a Veterans Carer webpage together to give better information and direction to people, and actually to say, hey, you're not alone. There are many of us, and we're about to expand that webpage in different ways, so watch that space. I will try to put the links on this channel. I'm a bit of a technophobe, so I'll try and get my 12-year-old to help me with that. So what do I do for me? Very little, I would say. Currently, I have good friends who, again, are within this veterans carers circle. I have one very special friend who is totally amazing, and she'll know who she is, and she's looking at this system from a different angle than me. She's actively learning and getting qualified to care for her husband, which I find totally inspirational. But what else do I have? I don't have a huge amount of family support physically, which isn't degrading my family. It just means everybody's busy. Everybody has their own thing. Everybody has their work, children, husband, own time out. So although I know that they're there for me, it's not a particular thing I can tap into to ask for support. Or sometimes when I'm gabbling on, like I do here, I actually wonder whether they understand the barriers and hurdles, stress, etc. that I'm finding on a day-to-day basis. I'm currently finding within the NHS system as well, policy isn't actually educated and isn't followed through on a local level. There may be a small amount of people who know and understand the Armed Forces Covenant, which again, I'll talk again further about at a later date, but is very woke. It's very open to interpretation, not veteran family named at all. Again, I'll talk about more about veteran families and the vulnerable veteran child later on, and what we are not doing for them. And that is primarily a lot. And also just the lack of, not compassion, but the understanding of how someone might not be able to engage, why somebody may be physically looking very angry, and how that can be very scary. I've been in those circumstances, but how to manage that, and how the veteran carer is an important person within that care, i.e. the triangle of care, which is again something I will try to put the link to on my page, so you can find out more about that. But the veteran carer can primarily be left out a lot of the care and information share of that veteran. There are things you can do in regards to that. You can look for a power of attorney and apply for that if needed. And that's something not only veteran carers, but the wider population should be looking at. It's kind of a fail-safe in regards to your care if something happens to you. And it's something I'm currently doing for myself and for my husband right now. But the way I sit currently on MDTs and so forth is that I wrote a letter, a blank letter, and maybe that's something again I can share, which is it's basically a template So my husband has signed the bottom. It basically gives me his permission to speak on his behalf, to be at all meetings and to talk. We're talking on his behalf again, but on all circumstances to be there for him. So, and all trusts have that. I gave the letter to the GP, local health trusts, external health trusts, ICB. I haven't done the CHC nursing team, so I should do that. That's something I've forgotten about. But that's something important, because when that person can't speak for themselves or maybe can't engage very well, then that is something that you can do if you feel able to. And the premise is if you feel able to. There are other organisations that will help you with that and advocate for you. And that is within the veteran space, but also within the civilian space. So it's something to look into if that's what you need. Because again, and I get this huge amount, is I get something called brain fog. Whereas my body and my mind will take so much over a prolonged period of time. And then my brain will become mentally exhausted by the bombardment, I would call it, from professionals, from myself also, from the expectation that I will find something, I will chase, I will be the person advocating, I will be the person that's annoying my MP, annoying the Defence Select Committee, annoying the papers, that will annoying the MOD, maybe regiment a little bit. And it does take its toll. And I literally can't think, I'm done. I literally can cope with the school run and getting everything done that I need to for the boys, getting them where they need to, counting them in 1, 2, 3, 4, and remembering I've got 4 and they need to be out the door for school and go to pick them up. Literally it gets that bad sometimes. And also physically, like the last 2 months, I have not been able to get on that thing at all. And that's usually my saviour. I love it. I can't advocate for Peloton anymore. I love the instructors. They give me hope, inspiration, and make me feel important, because in all this, I rarely feel important. Sorry, welling now. But I find myself being at the bottom of the run, and sometimes my health can falter because of that. I have something called Graves' disease, so I need to take my tablets regularly because they work on a build-up effect. But sometimes, you know, I'm so busy doing everybody else's thing, making sure James is having his tablets, making he's up, making sure he is getting out and integrating with other people, that the depression is not setting in, that I forget about me. I'm too much in a rush. And that is a massive failure, because actually, if we're not running and we're not happy, healthy, on the ball, everything else falls down. And actually, something a professional said to me a few years ago actually quite upset me at the time, but over time has kind of made me realise actually it's completely true, that if I falter or I fall, then the whole thing falls down. And that means there will be consequences, not only for myself, but James and ultimately our children. And that's just not acceptable. And at the time I found it a real offence. But actually I now see what she was saying. Our family life is so extreme and so complicated that if I don't keep on top of things, then ultimately our family structure could actually fail and it can be taken away from us, which is the ultimate hard line. It's quite an upsetting line, but it's something I have to think about. That's why I have to keep on top of me and make sure I'm okay. And I'm not saying that's easy. It's really hard. It's really hard to remember about me. Yeah. So important lesson from this channel is to remember you. is to do, even if it's 10 minutes, and I know 10 minutes can be such a hard push in a day. Some people think that's nothing. Actually, the 10 minutes could mean the difference between eating or drinking in that day. So remember you, even if you put an alarm on your phone at a certain point in the day and you take 10 minutes, even if you find a free meditation app on your phone or on your TV or on something or other, and you just have 10 minutes to zone out. Have some time where you're not thinking about you. You're not in the past. You're not in the future. You're in the present. You're right there, just in some sort of, I don't know, happiness is the wrong word, but I would say some safe space for your mind. Anyway, I think I've gone on enough for today. Hopefully next channel I'll say a little bit less, and hopefully you'll find these videos a lot better as I go along, and I'll get more used to it. I hope you found this useful. Please subscribe if you have found it useful, and please comment. I'd love your comments and ideas and suggestions. This is where our community thrives, from each other. That's where that information share is amazing. We are one of the best communities out there for sharing, for talking, for being there for each other. Have a great day.